So, after not having uploaded for a month again, I thought, what exactly should I make a video about again? Bastion, or maybe something like roselia or Varga, or nah, it's MyGO. For a quick TLDR of the background behind MyGO, the nation it is in is based on from the BanG series, which is also owned by Bushiroad. The project being about all-girl bands expanding to having their own rhythm game with Girls Band Party, or Garupa for short, having live concerts, and anime, and most importantly, the music. There are some voice actresses you might actually recognize who also do voice characters in the Cardfight anime. This is not the first time they've actually done a nation dedicated to the series, having also done this in V with Film Live. But that aside, MyGO was pretty huge in Japan for Set 13, being one of the best aggro decks released. I'm going to assume you guys probably haven't read the cards, but I'll do a quick rundown of the things you can pull. Such as G1 Tomori searching for HARUHIKAGE to search for Sakiko and Filter 2 to draw and feel soul. You got Tenkei Shield from Taki to make board commits guilt-free, Soyo giving Battle Door and Power Gain for better numbers, Rana's Power Gain that does stack by the way on restand and doing drive checks, being able to do 4 attacks on turn 2 using Hekten Banso and Rana to hit over defensives, and basically being able to make a board for completely free with Tomori's Grade Free Call from Bind and Anon's Top 5, where she also can bind herself and draw. Alright, there's also the board restand with Mayuta, which is also searchable off Tomori. Yeah, that's pretty fun. Though with the 50 cards rule introduction, the deck had a bit of a hit with having to play more junk cards in order to fill in the gaps, and as a result, it became less consistent. And moving into with the Stride deck set in DZ01 meta, 4 attacks on turn 2 was just sometimes, but not really cutting it if something like Luard or Roselia was drawing a billion cards every turn and you're just stuck with 3 cards in hand. This being the case, now with MyGO being released in English for DZ01, why do I make a video about this? Because I accidentally discovered a pretty dumb interaction, got it confirmed with a judge, then others moved it into a JP inquiry to confirm it, and so on. Yeah. One of the biggest problems of MyGO was just the options for going first, since a lot of things were locked behind the opponent's Vanguard being great for a greater. This meant cards like Rana could not net you card advantage if you were to play something like Hekten Banso or Mayuta, and generally made you more fragile. But let's actually draw our attention to HARUHIKAGE and Sakiko. Now, when I was looking for lists on MyGO and Dexander, I noticed a bunch of lists were running HARUHIKAGE at like 3 to 4 copies. At first, I didn't really understand why, probably just to mill out the Sakikos for more aggro, soul, and filter. Probably even to play it in turn 3 knowing that you'd rather be plussing than a restand that can probably just not hit over defensive. After trying it out and then accidentally calling Anon, I realized, wait, if you activate Anon first, then hit a MyGO off her, then Sakiko would actually see both on places, activate twice, technically putting herself in a soul twice, but actually once, and then just drawing 2. It's just pot of greed. Dude, what? Similar to Melum and TikTok workers ruling, since Melum's bot deck is not a cost to call grade 0, you can actually time leaper and still call the grade 0. The same applies to Sakiko, where she doesn't actually have a cost attached to her. Finding out this tech was absolutely huge. Now you have a good reason to max out HARUHIKAGE, play more Sakikos and Mutsume, have flexible soul to even run something like Evergreen Transfer, and now especially, you have a strong play going first to just straight up farm hand. You can even end up playing this combo in turn 2 for pretty much free aggro, and drawing free with 1 drive to easily refund hand. Hell, there are even some cases where you'd rather farm out hand if you couldn't confirm a good push on a turn. You end up cycling plenty of cards to be surprisingly very tanky. The biggest disadvantage, however, is now that the deck is surprisingly more prone to deck out, and it somewhat does get worse with draws. There is also an even bigger reliance on seeing Anon, but let's be real, it's been a problem since deck release. And now, the title of the video, How to MyGO. Your ideal mall target is Anon. If you then see HARUHIKAGE, it's also pretty good to keep. A second MyGO member is also nice to keep, so as long as you have everything else. Your definite mullback targets will always be Sakiko and Mutsume. Sometimes I would also mullback MyGO music, but if you do end up opening them, they're pretty fine to just keep anyway. You can ditch him for write up, and Tomori can still play him from drop. Just remember that HARUHIKAGE is a cry check order, so you can't search it with Tomori. An example going first, you'd want to tank at least a damage or so. On your turn 2, you play HARUHIKAGE, call Sakiko, then play Anon for CB1, then ideally hit any MyGO unit, usually Rana being the best one. Then soul in, draw 2. This is also a bit matchup dependent, but if you know your opponent doesn't have removal, or at least early removal, feel free to commit Taki and Soyo to make your early numbers that can hit over defensives. Turn 3, rinse and repeat if you do have HARUHIKAGE. Soul Blast 1, call Anon from bind. Keep making a board for free, and wow, a total of 5 cards including drive checks going first. This is just one example, but the deck is surprisingly very adaptable, so as long as you see Anon to even as late as a turn 3 write-up. Especially if the grade 2 Tomori searching for at least a MyGO, but please don't remember, just please don't show me that card, please. Even just playing the pot of greed combo for a total of once a game is still really strong. You also have the energy crest to just draw one if you have to. Other potential options you could include is Tsukishi for countercharge and soul using 1 crit, Mashiro ditching a crit to search out HARUHIKAGE, and the Skyred Regalis piece for a cycle and huge shield. MyGO, even now, I still think is something to look out for because of its accessible price at the moment, and, you know, all the tools it used to terrorize the format for a while. In actual honesty, I was actually surprised that a misinterpretation of a deck list ended up finding a tech that might actually give the deck a second wind, or at least a new tool to play around with, seeing that some Japanese players were surprised that this was even an interaction in the first place. This also probably wouldn't have been discovered had it not been in 50 cards, and what was seen as a nerf actually turned out to be a buff for the deck. There's also a really cool finding where if you play Mutsumi in your ride line, you can have actually 2 Sakos in field. Use Anon to call a MyGO, letting you essentially soul in 2, draw 4, and that makes a total of 6 cards including the drive check. It's stupidly high roll, but when it pops off, it pops off. Anyway, I hope this little guide gives you all a better understanding of how the deck is now adjusted to the 50 cards change, and possibly that this deck could probably see some play again in official events. I'm looking forward to that, if it happens. Or not, I don't know. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please do leave a like and do subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Please also do leave a comment if I've missed anything or just for general thoughts. I personally genuinely enjoy reading everyone's comments. Until the next video, see yous all.